I ran every single day for 208 days in a row. Averaged about 10 miles per day for those 208 days. My thinking was, people are fighting something or battling something every single day. I'm going to be upset or I'm going to complain about being able to run 10 miles every day. Complain about being a little tired or my legs being sore. Wrong thing to complain about at the time. So I said, I'm going to run.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mile 40 podcast. I am Bishoy Tadros, the author of Break Barriers and Audacious, both of which are sold on Amazon. And I invite you to join me as I engage with guests to discuss those bounce back moments that we encounter on our personal journey. Mile 40 is a forum to learn about how athletes, professionals, and leaders of all backgrounds stare down moments in life where the only option is to rise up. The Mile 40 podcast strives to remind listeners that the comeback is always greater than the setback. Welcome back to another episode of the Mile 40 podcast. Thank you all for continuing to tune in. I am incredibly excited for today's episode. Before we dive in, please be sure to hit subscribe if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Take a second right now, drop a review. The reviews are incredibly helpful to help the show grow. If you haven't already, please check out the books, Break Barriers and Audacious. The links are in the show notes. If you pick one up, I will sign it and send it out myself. Today's guest is Alex Dakas. He is an ultra marathoner, Ironman, fitness junkie, and entrepreneur. No mountain too tall mentality has allowed him to accomplish some commendable feats in the past couple of years, all while facing adversity and serious setbacks. From building his family's hospitality business to most recently running 100 miles and raising money for breast cancer awareness, he's constantly trying to improve himself, help others, and inspire people along the way. Alex, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
That's the perfect bio for a Mile 40 guest. I don't even know where to begin, but I do know one thing. You and I are both from Long Island. So tell us a little bit about where life kicked off for you.
All right. Long Island, born in Manhattan. Where I was in Astoria for about 3 years. Parents moved out to Glen Cove. And from there, I was about 3 years old until 23 years old. A lot of diversity in Glen Cove, Long Island. Melting pot of people for sure. And high school brought me down some interesting paths. Got into some drinking, some partying and stuff, but also, funny enough, in the beginning of going into high school, I was very overweight. I was 235 pounds. And I ended up losing like 60 pounds from sophomore year into junior year, and came back into high school as somebody that nobody recognized. During that time, before I figured out what partying was, I figured out what fitness was. And fitness was right away a challenge. It was something that I experienced a lot of setbacks and hardships with, but then also found, the beginning of myself before I lost myself again.
What modalities of fitness were you most into at that age?
So funny enough, fitness journey, everything comes full circle. 100% started with running. I think the first time that I ever got up, looked at myself in the mirror and said, I'm done with this. I went for a run. I think I ran half a mile and I called my dad. I said, please, dude, pick me up. I'm dead. And then half a mile turned into a mile, and a mile turned into running to the gym and working out and then running back home. So it was like a 4-mile round trip. And then, I wish social media was around back then. And I wish like the idea and the concept of recording everything was a thing, because I used to run from my house to the gym with a kettlebell strapped around my waist with a chain.
Jesus.
A 30-pound
How heavy was the kettlebell?
30 pounds.
Jesus, dude. All right. So listen, one of the questions that I was going to ask you, and I was just waiting for the right time, was one thing that's evidently clear. And you and I met a couple of weeks ago, but just in following you on social media and in our conversations, look, you move different. And I mean that in a positive way. Like, you have your own stride, and you're incredibly authentic. And I don't think you really care what anybody really thinks. But one of the things that was, in the back of my mind leading up to this interview was, did you always move differently?
You know, and that's the thing. I think it comes to like that extreme mentality, and this is something that people dive into a lot. But like the idea of extreme and obsession, and how positive a thing, and how also detrimental, negative thing it can be. But yeah, I think so. You know, when I was running at that time, when I was trying to lose weight as fast as possible, because it was an insecurity thing, right? Fitness in the beginning for me was entirely an insecurity thing, but I was trying to figure out how I could make things as hard as possible so I could ramp up my weight loss progress. That was what I was doing it for, and then I started realizing I was getting stronger and stuff. But yeah, and then again, like the drinking, and like it was to an extreme. Everything has always been to extreme. And then, when I got into the calisthenics, because I would say calisthenics was like my true first love, but, I would just spend hours and hours and hours in the gym. I think at the most I was in the gym for 4 hours a day. But I think that extremeness and the obsession with things that I did and moving differently is sort of what has allowed me to look at things like nothing is really too hard for us to do or for us to accomplish. Um, it's crazy because we do have these conversations with ourselves where we look back and we're like, oh my God, if you told me a year ago that I would have ran 100 miles, in only like 3 months or 6, 7 months after running an Ironman, I would say there's no way. And then, now I'm trying to run a 250-mile race. And it's so crazy how the jumps from thing to thing can just seem smaller, because we start realizing how much more we're capable of. Right? So, from my first half Ironman, I was like, oh my God, a full Ironman, that's insane. And then from the Ironman, I said, okay, so a 12-hour race or so, now I just have to run for 24. Right? And now it's like, okay, now I'm going to run and be in the heat for 3, 4 days and tackling, 30,000 feet of elevation. It's like, I got this. We got this. We can, yeah. So you have to move differently physically and mentally. But I think everyone and anyone can do it. It's just a mindset. And
Yeah, no, look, I relate to you a lot on many of the on a lot of this. I myself, I would say I'm a person of extremes as well. When I partied, I partied. When I run, I run. Uh, and I see it even in myself now as I, navigate being a father and all the other demands of life. Like I go all in into each of the arenas, and at certain points in life, it was definitely detrimental. And then in other areas, you see the positive. But one of the things that I think you and I can both agree on is that self awareness of being extreme. Like once you own it and you become more aware of it, you're more intentional about your movements. And it took me a while. I remember hearing, from someone that I was extreme when I was a little bit younger, but I didn't
intense.
really like, yeah, like I didn't really internalize it. Like I didn't realize it, what it meant. Um, and a big part of it is, not knowing when to stop in pursuit of something, right? And so that's a big element of it too. Talk to me a little about your relationship with your parents, and did you have any siblings?
So, parents, siblings, they are the loves of my life. I was raised in a household with so much love. We're together every day. We actually work, as a family business. My little brother is now, in between college and looking for his career path and doing some months at our company as well. But yeah, we see each other every single day, and we still go to dinner, and we love all of it. My sister's my best friend. Family is everything. And it's funny. I feel like a lot of people that come from this, or that end up being in these tough endurance sports, maybe they had a tough upbringing in family, or maybe household was difficult, and it was not the case for me. Like but the amount of love that was in my family and in at home is definitely what brings out the intentionalism that I tried to bring to what I do. Because what I do, I enjoy, but what I'm trying to bring is something that changes the world in a small way, and hopefully in a better way, one day, or in a larger way. Sorry, but yeah, my mom is one of the most loving people and sweetest people in the world. Um, yeah,
I mean, that's extreme. Like that last point you made about what it is that you're trying to do. Like I can pick up on it. It's evident that you're trying to do. You're trying to lead by example, and your message is incredibly positive and thought provoking and profound. It requires a deep look in the mirror, ultimately. And I saw you shared the other day a note about your sister. She was she in the car with you, or like basically following you along on the 100 miler?
Yeah, yeah, the whole
So
time.
tell us about that.
So it was actually really funny. The day before, I had received the checklist from our mutual friend Maddie, actually. And Maddie sent it to my mom, and he said, "Hey, I know Alex is stubborn, but if you can get him to look at this checklist and make sure that he has these things, just go through it with him." So, big family meeting. My mom's like, "Alexi, come sit down." I go by Alex and Alexi. My family calls me Alexi. And my sister comes into the conference room, and we're going through the checklist. I'm like, check, 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 check. And she's like, socks, right? And I'm like, yeah, I have like 3 or 4 socks. And she's like, should you bring more? I'm like, how many? She's like 10, 12. And I'm like, guys, this is 100-mile run. This isn't, I'm not trying on clothes in the changing room. And she's like, how
Yeah.
about shoes? You have 8 shoes? And I was like, how many shoes am I going to go through? I mean, it's only one terrain, right? I'm just on
Yeah.
the street basically. And my sister's like, screw this. I'm not even coming with you tomorrow. You're not listening to us. We're trying to care for you. We're trying to look out for you. And you're just rejecting everything that we're saying. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so worried about me, So obviously she was there the next day. But that girl was crying for so much of it. And she was the first person. She doesn't run. A lot of my family doesn't like running, and I think my sister did like a total of 7 or 8 miles with me throughout the 100. And because every time she would see me on my own running in the rain, it was torrential sideways downpour that day we ran. She would get out of the car and she would just run as much as she could, and she would get back into the car. And it was just incredible to see like all the people that I've formed relationships with, in the past few years, and also the people that my life started with, next to me the whole entire time. Mom, dad in the car the whole time. I ran for 21 and a half hours, but they sat in cars awake for 21 and a half hours. It's incredible.
It's not easy
It's
to spectate.
incredible.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy to spectate, especially because you don't train for spectating, and if it's not like,
It's
yeah, no,
yeah.
it's not easy. Yeah, kudos to everybody out there who supports us maniacs.
Yeah.
But we're definitely gonna get back to this, but I want to set the stage here. So you had talked about winding down the wrong path a little bit, in high school. Talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to us a little bit about some of the decisions that you made, and what led you down that path.
Yeah, I think the fascination, or I think the surprise of coming back to high school and sort of never having kissed a girl and all that stuff, and not having ever been invited to a Sweet 16, and also I think one huge turning event was working up towards a point where I thought I would have came back from that summer losing weight and being able to get put onto either the junior varsity or the varsity soccer team. And I went for tryouts and I got kicked out of tryouts. I not kicked out, I was rejected from the team. I didn't make it. And they told me that I wasn't strong enough in the upper body. But it was really funny because I was able to do pull-ups. I was able to do those pegboards, the climbing boards. And I was like, I'm so strong in the upper body. Like I spent so much time doing push-ups and pull-ups, and I just felt absolutely rejected. That's what it was. I felt rejected, and I felt unseen because I felt like the work that I had put in and the weight that I had lost was unrecognized, and I was still being looked at as the kid that was quiet, playing video games, band geek and stuff. Which I think band music, music and instruments are amazing. But what was I accepted into? What did I realize I was good at? It was drinking, right? It was partying. It was being, funny and being up until midnight and 2 in the morning, and talking about all the crazy stuff that we did right the next day at school, and eventually, sorry, mom and dad, having parties even during our free periods. Right, we would sometimes go back to school after having drinks, but and then started smoking cigarettes, and it was just like everything against what is now. But yeah, so after high school, kept on drinking, followed fitness. It's always a part of my life, but I definitely never dived into it head first because drinking was always sort of holding you back. So it would always be a 2 steps forward, 3 steps back kind of thing. I genuinely believe that from about the ages of 23 to 28 or 22 to 28, which was my worst, it was pretty much the same thing every single week. Every single week. I don't think there was any kind of forward progress. I think it was just the most vicious cycle. Now, in terms of, endurance though, in terms of what I could tolerate and what I was building up mentally to eventually get out of that phase and that constant vicious cycle, I realized that I had built the resilience and the ability to suffer. It depends on how you look at it. I think I suffered more then than I ever will now, because it's just,
Were you always running away from that, that idea of rejection?
you know, maybe, I don't know. But I think it's difficult to figure out because, I mean, even up until I was 28, 29, even, I think I was still working out because I just wanted to look good. And, you know, just yeah, it was more so a matter of acceptance. And even in the way that I was working out, and even like some of the things that I would post to talk about, I just wanted validation, and I have no problem expressing that or talking about it. We all want validation, and I
We
still do
all want
want
it.
validation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want
Everybody
to be
wants to be
commended for
seen.
doing. Yeah,
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 anyone wants to be seen, wants to be heard, and wants to feel like they have a voice. Uh, but there's a another layer to that, which is how confident are you within your like how confident were you at that point, looking at yourself in the mirror, even if you had been working out, and even if aesthetically you looked good, did you like the person inside?
yeah. No, I don't think so at all. Really, I think I always knew that there was so much potential and so much to do, and I think that I was constantly sort of just putting myself down and putting others down around me. And again, like I said, I was always showing up for work. I was always showing up at the gym, but I don't think I was living to my true potential or doing the things that I had to do to really give myself that fulfillment, and also to be an example of for people. But it's the kind of thing that I don't regret, and that I wouldn't go back in time and change, because it has allowed me to sort of have a level of understanding that I feel a lot of other people don't. Right? It takes a lot to go through it, and then it takes it's hard to be misunderstood when you're someone that's going through it. And the fact that I can see someone or be spoken to by somebody and be able to relate to those people, I think it's is a gift. It's a gift that I gave to myself, once upon a time, and then I'll hold on to forever.
I agree. I think that that perspective goes a long way, right? Being able to see both sides of the coin and being able to speak with conviction around your experiences, right? Because they're lived experiences. They're not just somebody telling you, this is better, or you're going to have more fun here, or you're going to have more clarity on this side. When you live it, it makes you a lot more authentic with regards to how it is that you move, and so that's important. Did it ever get to a point that required any sort of like facilitation, whether it was like family, friends, or anything like that that needed to like, step in? Or was it pretty much just you were just going down your own path and like you had to basically like come to your own understanding?
Yeah, I never got admitted or, you know, was just looked at with a keen eye by everybody. And I think it started becoming a lot more apparent. Um, and then I went through a tough relationship, and I just found myself, well, actually, I was in relationships, and then I went into a relationship where I thought I was happy. And then that relationship ended. And then I went back, spiraled downwards. And I got myself on a bicycle and went through Central Park, started riding. And I think that was just like the cure. That was it. I started riding, and I started just doing these long rides, because it's funny with fitness. The one thing that I always used to say is, I wish I could do more of it. I just don't know how much time I can spend in the gym. You know, like I was like, if I could spend 4 or 5 hours in the gym, like I would, but my arms are tired. I can only do so many pull-ups. And then I started realizing you can ride a bike for 3, 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours. So I had actually recently, I came out about this. I made a post about it, talking a little bit about it, but started riding, and then I would go on these 50, 60 mile rides, and I would drink. I would just, and do more than just drink. And I would wake up and I'd be like, crap, like, I did it again. Like I did this awesome thing, but now I'm sitting in bed on a Sunday thinking, how the hell am I back here hungover and feeling like shit? And this cycle kept on repeating itself, but I was starting to get better. And then one day I was drunk off my ass, and I was like, this needs to stop. This needs to stop right now. And I contacted my gym, someone that I know from the gym, and I said, hey, I want to be a personal trainer. And it sounds funny, or it sounds sort of crazy. I was drunk and I said, can I be a personal trainer? But I was already very established, in terms of my fitness experience, and in the gym as somebody who was there Monday through Friday, no matter what, pretty much. It was just what was happening on the weekends at this point that I couldn't figure out. My Monday through Friday was totally figured out, but it was just still like that Saturday night that I couldn't stop going down that path that I was trying to get away from. So what I did is I locked in on, working with our company Monday through Friday, and then being at the gym from 5 a.m. to 12 to noon or so. And I just made it so that I had to be somewhere every single day, every single morning. And that was the extreme thing, right? That goes back to the extremeness that I need to use really to combat the opposite side of the extremeness. So I showed up every single day, Saturday, Sunday. And also now there wasn't just I'm showing up for work. I was showing up for other people. I was showing up because, Bob and Joe and Andrea and Gabby want to hit their fitness goals. Right?
Yeah.
And
so you had accountability.
yeah. And I was like, I'm helping people. I love this. I love seeing people smile and, say like they had a good workout, or like, oh, you're such a great trainer and you motivated me and inspired me. And I was like, oh man, this is clicking. Like, I'm really starting to figure out, that this is where I want to be, and that I don't want to be in bed at 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. on a Sunday hungover. I want to be doing something that's fulfilling, and that's also, inspiring other people, hopefully one day. And
Is it fair to say that you weren't necessarily like a slave to alcohol or any substance? You were more so a slave to your environment?
I think I was a slave to myself. To myself. Yeah. It wasn't really so much the environment. I mean, yeah, there's environmental aspects to it, because still now a lot of my friends, Saturdays, no one runs with me. I'm very lone wolf, or now I have a bit of a group of people like that ultra that we're talking about. I have people showing up with me tomorrow. But for the most part, I was doing things on my own, and I continue to do things on my own. But I really do think, and this goes back to like, where did the problems come from? It wasn't home, it wasn't household, maybe the rejection thing, but I really was a slave to myself. It was just totally self-inflicted. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know where wanting to beat myself up so bad comes from. It's just,
Do you give yourself more grace now?
yeah, yeah,
I think that's an
absolutely.
important I think that's an important, element to all this, when you think about it, right? Especially around the idea of extremes. One of the things that I've realized on my own personal journey is that as I started to shift toward more of this lifestyle, I'm a lot more graceful with myself. I'm
Mhm.
willing to forgive myself a lot more. Whereas, the older version was a lot harder, a lot more critical. Um, and I don't know, but like, I guess a part of that could be tied to the fact that alcohol is a downer. Alcohol will bring you down, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally.
Well,
Uh,
so
yeah,
the alcohol was a gateway to cocaine,
there you go.
and yeah, so that's what the problem was. But the high, right? This the stimulating feel and just the feeling of I can do anything was
Yeah.
really what I was constantly chasing. And I would be up until 9 in the morning. And I think by the worst time ever, I had a 3 day bender, didn't sleep. But it was just that feeling of like I can do anything. And when you're on that drug, to anybody, please don't do it. It's a
Cocaine's a hell of
terrible
a drug.
drug. Cocaine's a hell of a drug, but you feel like you can do anything, right? And then you come back to sober, and you come back to yourself in bed, and you realize you're just a human. And I was like, I want to feel like that all the time, and now I do. I I can do it. I can climb any mountain. I feel like I could. Yeah. So I'm high on life. And in terms of giving grace to myself, not only do I give myself grace to myself, but um, it's been a real long journey. But for the first time in my life, for the past year or so, I could say like genuinely happy, like really happy. And yeah, just no regrets, no no harsh feelings from to myself. I forgive myself, and you know we can only look at ourselves and point to ourselves, right? Unfortunately, where some people are dealt pretty tough cards, but it really is your choice what you do with your life and where you go and the road that you go down. Of course, there's circumstances that really are unfair, but for the most part, we're responsible of our own story.
Yeah. So after you started training at the gym, talk to me about how quick like things kind of evolved from there. Like after you started
So
training other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't remember how many months I did exactly of working 7 days a week, aside from like I think maybe I took the day after my birthday off, or like some family stuff. But for the most part, I was there every day, and then I scheduled a an Ironman, a half Ironman. That was the first half Ironman that I scheduled, and in on December 23rd or so, or December 18th of 2023, I tore my bicep. I did a
Mm,
full snap of my bicep. I probably can't see
jeez.
the scar. So like sounded like a bone snapped.
Yeah.
And I went to my friends, passed out 7 times, and everyone asked me why did I pass out, and it's because for the first time in my life, I had gotten to this point where I was accountable. I was at the strongest I had ever been. I think I had my first little like fitness shoot or photography shoot the next day, and I was like, oh my god, I can't do it now. So all these thoughts when I ruptured my bicep, I was like, everything that I just worked towards has been stripped away from me. It's done. It's over. And then I went to the hospital, and they said, yeah, it's probably a bicep rupture, but we're not sure yet. So I woke up the next day and I went to the gym to train my clients with an arm that I couldn't bend. And I said, don't look at me differently. I said, I'm still here. I still have my 2 legs. I still have my right arm. I can still help you train. I can still guide you. We're going to do this. I'm not leaving your side, and you're not leaving my side. And that was it. And fast forward, I basically started training, and that's when I started running because I couldn't use my arm as much. So I started running with my arm in a sling. And just didn't give up. And then I got the surgery, and the doctor said, you have at least a year before you're going to be able to do pull-ups. And I was doing pull-ups in 3 months. And then 2 weeks after my first pull-up, I jumped into the pool for the first time to learn how to swim for distance for a half Ironman. And then 4 weeks later, I did my first half Ironman.
Which one?
And it wasn't an Ironman brand, but it was the Harryman Triathlon in Harriman State Park. So, and it was really funny. Funny story. I was there and I didn't know how to put on a wetsuit, and I'd never swam in the open water. And I asked just a random guy there, and I said, hey, can you help me? I can't get this on. He goes, you can't get your wetsuit on? I was like, nope. He was like, have you never put one on? I was like, nope. And he was like, have you ever swam in open water? I was like, nope.
Huh.
And he said, this is sort of crazy, man. And I said, I know. And I said, you just help me? And he said, yeah, I'll help you. Anyway, further down the line, he had my birth date as his numbers. So I don't know what prompted me to do a bib cert lookup, but I looked him up and he didn't finish the swim.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I don't know what the point of that story is, but just why can't you just help people and not judge, right? You never, like, why? I always look at people, and as long as you're not putting anybody in danger, like, I think it's good to just, help somebody and give them a pat on the back and say, you got this, rather than be like, oh, you're not going to make it very far. But for me, if anything, I would have looked at the person and been like, you go, man. Like,
yeah, like
balls of steel. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that. Not that it matters, but just for contextual purposes, like, how'd the race go ultimately?
I did terribly. I made a wrong turn and I ended up doing an extra 24 miles on the bike.
24?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So you did what? 70-mile bike ride? 80-mile bike ride?
It is. Yeah. 56 plus 24. So the 80-mile bike ride.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I finished I followed a guy. Yeah. I followed a guy. He was riding in the pack of triathletes. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to catch this guy. And then when other people turned, he didn't. And I'm going down. We go 12 miles down a road. And I was like, this is a weird course for it to be so straight and down the mountain. And then there's a guy smoking a cigar, mowing his lawn. And I was like, oh, there's no way we're going through residential. And I stop. I look back, and he's still behind me. And he's like, yo, the race is that way. It was 12 miles back up the mountain.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did really bad.
That's brutal. No, I mean, like, look, both of those experiences are experiences you're not going to forget. The conversation, the guy in the wetsuit, and then the first. Jesus.
But, going back up that mountain and thinking about the fact that there was, I think, like a 9, or it might have even been, I think it's an 8-hour cutoff time. I was like, I'm going to quit. I can't do this. How am I going to make it back up the mountain? I just did 12 miles down. And I got to do another 12 miles back up. And I did it. I just kept on going. And I think I finished in like 7 hours and 59 minutes. But, that race was harder than the full Ironman that I did by far, because I did so much more work. I was trying to make up time. I was stressed out. I didn't know how to swim. The run was the first, real long run that I did off the bike. My training was pretty inadequate because of the bicep rupture. And I remember finishing those last 3-4 miles on the run, and I couldn't stop crying. I could not stop crying because I realized how far I'd come from, not being able to go a weekend without drinking and doing cocaine until 7, 8 in the morning, to finishing a half Ironman, something that I was like, there's no way that I was going to be able to do. There's no way that I was going to learn how to swim. Doctor told me that it was a bad idea. Everyone said, you got to take it easy, take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. And I said, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish it. And that feeling of success is honestly still one that I'm trying to feel like. I'm trying to emulate that same feeling of finishing that half Ironman. And I thought I was going to cross that finish line and have the same feeling of joy. nothing. Just I crossed that finish line with the straightest face. The 100-mile run, crossed the finish line with the straightest face. Gave my aunt a hug, and it was just another day.
Hey all, it's me, Bishoy. As a marathon runner and endurance athlete, I've come to understand the importance of properly fueling your body for preparation and recovery. Every day, you get a shot at success. How you start your day typically paints a picture of what the rest of the day will look like. Start your day with a super convenient, healthy, and delicious nutritional win. Meal 1 by Creatures of Habit. Overnight oatmeal packed with 30 grams of plant-based protein, chia, flax, and pumpkin seeds. Vitamin D3, omega-3s, a probiotic, and digestive enzymes made in under 1 minute. Stop wasting time or worrying about what to eat as your first meal of the day. Start with meal 1. Visit creaturesofhabit.com, creatures spelled with a K, and use code MILE40 for 15% off a one-time purchase or the first subscription order payment. I mean, look, there's something to be said and about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. All right. It's a theme that comes up over and over again. And, one of the things that's clear about you is that, when hard knocks, you open the door and you're not, you're looking for it ultimately. And, there's no more perfect of a story to align with mile 40, right? Mile 40 was the 40th mile of a 70.3. That's how the name of the podcast came about. That's where I had my moment. It was my first Ironman, a half Ironman. And I had a moment where I completely broke down. It was right around mile 40. And, it was one of those situations where I kind of went into fight or flight mode. And, when you're in that mode, when you're in that zone, immediately your mind starts to think about, how you've handled difficult situations in the past. And you go to you go to the darkest corner of your brain during those moments. And for me, I had to remember when I was younger navigating cancer treatment, my parents would celebrate small wins. And I'm looking at the next 30 miles of the race and I'm thinking to myself, if I just look at it as 1 mile 30 times as opposed to 30 miles, like mentally I'll be able to finish this race. And that's what I did to will myself through the last like 30 miles of the race. But beyond that, I think what's more important as a takeaway for the audience here is going into the unknown, right? Like that conversation you had with the guy over the wetsuit and never having swam in open water before, never having put on a wetsuit before, you know never having done a half Ironman before. Like those are the things that I think a lot of people instill limiting beliefs on themselves for. But one of the things I think you and I can agree on is that those experiences are probably the most powerful experiences we've had in our lives. Because even if our time sucked, the things we walked away from that course with empowered us for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And cheers to you, man. That's an amazing story also. I mean, you've fought a lot too, and it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Same, man. No, I'm honored to have you as well, and I love the synergy between our stories. I want to talk a little bit more about the 100 miler, but I want to make sure that we don't skip any pieces. With regards to childhood, adolescence, up until you decided to take on that half Ironman. As we're talking about the different adversity you had to navigate outside of your own personal struggles, was there any other adversity that stood out during that period?
Mom and dad have always been extremely resilient. We won't go too much into detail because I don't know too much detail, but my dad was, made of iron when he was younger. And then around, I think, 38 years old, he was diagnosed with MS. And MS was actually a misdiagnosis. And they took bone out of his spine and took a bone out of his hip and reinforced it with a titanium plate in his neck. And my dad wasn't able to walk. He wasn't able to take a step up from the street onto a curb. Like he needed a ramp. He just kept on, fighting along. And then he was diagnosed with leukemia, and he fought through that. And I think that was the first time also that I really had a conversation with the idea of death and the fear of losing something. Um, and that also instilled a big sense of wanting to be healthy and so many things, but also um, it's maybe a conversation for another time, but there's only so much that we can control. um, my dad isn't the healthiest person in terms of what he chooses to do and stuff, but the man next to him in the hospital was a pilot, and he got called in, and the guy was able to do pull-ups on a door frame. When he got in, he would do 50 pull-ups on the door frame of the hospital room and 100 push-ups every single day. And this guy, rest in peace, but he withered away in a matter of months. And my dad came out, and it really is just gotta be grateful and take in life as well while we have it, and do the most with our time here, because we never know what will change. Um, and then 9/11 happened, with my family, and there was definitely financial stuff, and um, they the business, and they said, we're going to keep on fighting, we're going to stick around, and we're going to do everything that we can to not go out of business. And just 30 years later, now we just had our 30-year anniversary. I've only been a part of it for what, 14 years, so more than half without me. They built on their own. So not personal adversity, but just the adversity that I've witnessed people battling,
Yeah.
and again saying screw you, like not taking it,
Not
and
today.
honestly, we welcome it with open arms. We are really solution oriented people. It's not what's the problem, it's how can we fix it, or it's what is the problem, how can we fix it, not what is this going to do to us, how is this going to negatively impact us, what can we take from this, and how can we fix it.
Yeah,
And
so
that's it.
it's not a victim mentality. It's a and that's an incredibly important thing to take away from that. Tell us more about the business itself. Like where is it located?
So business is located in Astoria. um, it's a 14-person business. We operate like a company of 50. We service hotels. We do front desk systems, and we install the electronic locks in all the guest rooms, back of house security, like main entrance intercoms, key cards, staff, all that. We also do energy management systems, and we service the country. We go around the country from New York to California, and we're on the ground. Um, we have an extremely personable relationship with our customers. We're very not corporate. We say hi. We bring ourselves into the picture. When somebody has a question at 11 o'clock at night, or 2 in the morning, they call our cell phones. And hopefully we're up to take it. But we don't deal with help desks. We don't source some things out. We're very close knit. And yeah, it's definitely a family business, and our customers and our clients know it's a family business as well. But yeah, it's just very, very hardworking and very resilient as a company and as a people.
Over the years working with your family, was your dad diagnosed while he was working at the time?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
was
what was that like?
was 23 years old. Uh, I had just landed in California, and he had been tired for a bit of time, but tough guy, Greek guy, stubborn, right? Like me, I'm sure, wasn't really making a big deal out of it. And I got to California, and my mom calls me, and she goes, "Hey, your dad just fell up the stairs and passed out." I was like, "Oh shit!" All right, so ambulance picked him up, and then 3 or 4 hours later, I got a call, or I don't know, remember the timeline of this, but your dad has leukemia, and I got on the phone with him and I was like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And he was like, "Did you get to California yet?" He's like, did you get to the hotel did you meet with Bill?" And I was like, "Dude, you just got diagnosed with cancer. How you doing?" He's like, I'm good. He was like, "Oh, you at the hotel?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You want me to stay, don't you?" And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I'll be fine, man. Don't worry. Just do what you got to do." That was it. And I went, did the job, came back home, and I remember coming back to New York, driving straight to the hospital, and I think this was the first time I'd cried in a really, really, really long time. And it wasn't my dad; it was
Yeah.
my mom walking out of the hospital doors. She had been
Yeah.
at the hospital by his side for like 5 days or so, and this person that I saw come out of the hospital doors to greet me wasn't a person; it was an angel. And I was like, God, this woman is so strong, smiling, you know? And I just started crying. I was like, but yeah. So he was sick for like 9 months to a year, I think. And I think that was a really, really big turning point for me in the company because all I wanted to do, oh, we're going back to rejection, right? All I wanted to do was prove
It
to
always
him,
comes full circle.
yeah, I wanted to prove to him that I was good enough and that he could trust me and that I could do the work that, I felt worthy of doing one day for him. And again, everyone knew Peter. So people would call him and I'd be like, "Hey, man, you got to not call Peter right now because he's sick. Just call me if you need anything." And yeah, sort of, that's where the turning point for me happened. And, you know, like it's a crazy thing to be grateful for illness, but and it sounds so strange saying it, but I'm going to stand by what I think. I mean, my dad has fulfilled some of his dreams. He has a koi pond now, and he gets to hang out with his koi fish, and he gets to travel to Japan, and he gets to build an apartment in his hometown in Greece. And I got to be in the position in the company that I wanted to because I was able to show him that during tough times, when he wasn't able to be there, he was able to rely on me, and he had his son to be able to run the business and talk to the people that typically would have been taking up his time while he was on the plane or traveling or unable to answer emails. Yeah, I don't know. It's
It's
just
beautiful. No, it's
glass
beautiful,
half
man.
full mentality. You just got to try to look at things positive. And again, like I don't want to be seen as a bad guy because people die, right? And people pass away, and I don't want to say that there's anything good to come from that, but the battles that we do overcome and that we make it through, and no matter what, there's a positive way to look at anything. I really do
Yeah.
believe in that, no matter what.
No, I hear you, and I can speak to it firsthand. I agree with you. It's a tough conversation. It's a delicate conversation to be had, but every every positive attribute of my strength personally as an adult has came through my experience navigating leukemia as a child. And whether it was navigating it through the actual therapy and the hospital system, but it was also the navigating the impact it had on those around me, family, friends, people, teachers, whoever it was. Uh, and so it taught me all the lessons that have then kind of played a role in my life thereafter. And again, to your point, it's a delicate conversation to be had, but I think you did it beautifully because whether it's cancer or something else, it's the ability to persevere in those moments where you can't control the circumstances and to put yourself in a position um, where your light is sustained. And so, I just want to add to that because I think that's a very powerful sentiment. Um, I want to make sure now we kind of go to your aunt and we talk about that. Talk to us a little about what happened when she was diagnosed and what spurred the 100 miler.
Yeah. So, finished my Ironman. There's one
Yeah.
little gap that. So
Else.
after the half Ironman, I went to Uganda. I went with a group called Wayfinders, and it was the most life changing experience. We went to Uganda and we got to give to some of the people there. We gave land and livestock, and it was just like, it was incredible. But when I came back from Uganda, I went to the gym and I said, "Oh, I don't need to be here anymore." You know, and I realized that I wanted to spend more time training and I wanted to spend more time working towards some of my goals. And I stopped working on the weekends and went, all in on my training and spending, 4 to 6 hours sometimes on the weekends per day, running and biking and swimming. So that's the aha moment in terms of freedom and being free. Yeah. So after the Ironman, I realized I didn't have anything signed up for, and I think I was at the point where I realized that I was okay. Our mutual friend Maddie, he had just finished his 125-kilometer run,
This is
and
Matty Christopherson.
Maddie, yeah,
He's been on the show, so everybody go
yeah,
check out Maddie's episode.
yeah. Shout out Maddie.
Yeah.
And he had finished his 125-kilometer run. He was the first runner of the RBC Grand Fondo, and he raised an insane amount of money, which was incredible because that man is good at what he does. And his friend needed some pretty special kind of treatment in Canada, and it was a really costly treatment. And he was able to raise over $125,000 for her and get her all fixed up. So I started thinking about wanting to do something also and tying in a big run or a big push. And I was gearing it towards mental health because I felt like that's something that so many people struggle with and so many people battle every day, and myself as well, anxiety and some depression. But I almost feel like I wasn't credible enough, which I don't know. I just didn't feel it didn't come out at me enough for me to say this is what I'm going to do it for. And then after a couple of conversations with Maddie and talking to him, and, throwing that idea out there, he was like, when it comes to you, or it's going to come to you, you'll know. Like when something that you want to do presents itself, you'll know. And I wish I knew how long it was, but like a matter of weeks, we found out my aunt had breast cancer. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And I didn't think of anything. I didn't think of the run because I was thinking about her. Right? We were visiting her and we were making sure she was okay. And then I had gone on a run and I had met somebody that did a 100-mile run. And I think I went to my sister and my little brother and we were sitting down on the couch and I was like, guys, I really want to run 100 miles. And they were like, run it for Dimitra. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my God, I can run 100 miles in honor of my Aunt Dimitra. So I ran over to her and she was like, you're nuts. Like, you're absolutely crazy. And she was like, I'm not being a part of this. I'm not being the face of this. I'm not putting my face on a picture or a video. And she was like, and I'm not letting you run 100 miles. You're going to kill yourself. I was like, do I have your blessing or no? And she was like, okay. So that was it. I got the okay. And from that day on, I think she was diagnosed on October 1st. I think somewhere in the middle of October, I started running, which is when I had gone to see her. And I ran every single day for 208 days in a row. So that was part of the thing that I did. So I made 100 videos talking about running, and some of them were silly, some of them were motivational, some of them were about running. But I was just trying to bring attention to our Project 101, which is the fundraiser that we started. And also, obviously, training and preparing myself for this big run. So running every day, averaged about 10 miles per day for those 208 days. And I know I didn't go about it in the smartest way possible. Like rest and recovery are important elements to training and preparedness for events like that. But my thinking for the running every single day was she was struggling every day. She was fighting every day. People are fighting something or battling something every single day. I'm going to be upset or I'm going to complain about being able to run 10 miles every day, complain about being a little tired or my legs being sore.
Yep.
Wrong thing to complain about at the time. So I said, I'm going
That's
to
such a
run.
powerful perspective that because it's true. It's true. And I've had this discussion with a couple other runners out there around like the running every day, or the people who do like the commitment to run, a mile every single day. And in the back of your mind is like a long-term runner, you're like, oh, like, the recovery, like, you got to give your body a chance to recover. But when you hear it like that, and when it's said like that, the perspective is so incredibly strong, because it doesn't even come close to the pain and the adversity that someone who's dealing with something like that has to deal with. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're
No. Yeah.
absolutely right.
Thank you. Yeah. That's exactly the idea. We don't get to choose when we have to, fight these battles. Right. And the other idea was I don't get to choose if how much it was raining or how cold it was or how icy it was on the 59th Street Bridge running up it at 8 a.m., on a Saturday. Or, for my sister's engagement, I was terribly hungover.
Yeah. Huh.
Didn't realize I still drink.
Yeah.
I don't believe in restriction. I believe in moderation, of course. And no cocaine, just alcohol.
Fair. Just to clear the record.
Yes.
Okay.
But you don't get I didn't get to choose. If I had a 12-hour workday and flew to Texas, I would land on the plane in Texas and I would run. And I just kept on running. And it's pretty funny because so many people were telling me to stop and that it was such a bad idea. And even though people are on your side,
They're looking out for you.
they're looking out for you. Yeah. But, there were so many days, I think definitely took a toll on my mental for a bit. Cause just like every day, it got tough. And I was just telling my friends and my family, I said, if you believe in me, just tell me you got this. I don't want to hear anything else. I don't want to hear that I should take a break because I'm not going to. I don't want you to say, oh, maybe you can just do, maybe you can run to 150 and then you don't have to keep on going till 208. I said, just tell me I got this. This little stitch of time is going to pass and I'm going to run that 100 miles. And when it's done, the only thing you're going to say is you're crazy and you did it. That's it. I didn't want to hear anything else. And they didn't listen.
Of course not. But no, I mean, I think that it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, being a lone wolf. Like, you put yourself in a circle that no one wants to join when you sign yourself up for something like this. And you literally, separate yourself from the pack when you onboard a mission and commit to something like this. And I get it. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, back to the Ironman, the 70.3 that I did. I'll never forget those 6 months that I was training, twice a day. There was no, if you had known me up until that point in my life, you would not have identified me as someone who would have done like that, anything like that. It was so foreign to a lot of the people that were around me, even people closest to me, and to the point where like they were concerned, for my health and for my relationships and all that. But I knew deep down, why I had to continue showing up, and I knew why this is, the way that it has to be done. And I knew I was going to be doing it alone, and I knew that no one was going to join me. But the power of also doing it alone, you don't realize it as you're doing it, but every single day you show up, you're learning more and more about yourself. And I think, well, let's get to how things finished out here. So now you go through the 200 days.
Yep.
Then what?
So I will say that one of the harder parts of the running was making the videos and staying positive, and being like optimistic about the fundraising. And just, there's a saying, oh, everyone cheers for you when you start something and everyone cheers for you when you finish it. Right. But while you're going through something, when you need it most, there's not much going on, right? Like in mile 40 of that race that you did, it
You're
was
by yourself.
nobody saying, hey man, you got this. You're in the middle of the woods or wherever the hell you are, right? There's someone waiting for you at the finish line, or at least in your case, I hope there was. But in the middle of these races, there's really not much going on except for you and your thoughts. And that's what I started feeling like. I was like, what am I running for? Like, why did I sign up for this? Like, my legs hurt, my feet hurt, everything hurts every single day. I'm being fully transparent. Like, I'm not getting comments on some of my videos, like no one has donated in 2 weeks. And I'm sitting here, just trying to do something good, and it's not getting the recognition that I expected it to get. And I'm so happy that I dealt with that, because it wasn't rejection, but I think the power of dealing with rejection is such a great tool. There's a lot of experiments that people do with rejection, and I think if you don't put yourself out there in the position to be rejected, I think it's a disservice to yourself to not put yourself out there and be rejected, or ask questions when you think that they might not be answered and responded to the way that you wish them to be. So anyway, we start getting further along the fundraiser, and I think we're at like day 170 or something now. And on the same weekend that we hit our fundraising goal of $10.1 thousand, which isn't a very large amount, it was to Memorial Sloan Kettering. My aunt also gets informed by her doctor that her triple negative breast cancer had fully disappeared. And I was like, what the? This is crazy. Like, this is so cool. So now, I feel like the gear started, all the fire started, coming back up in me. And I was like, hell yeah, like, this is amazing. Like, what a success story. I'm so happy. Like, I mean, screw the, $10.1 thousand. My aunt just, got beat cancer. I'm like, this is insane. And we kept on running, and then we get to day 208, and we didn't know if my aunt was going to be there, obviously. There's always an unknown. I mean, I was hopeful and as optimistic as we were, whether she was going to be in the hospital, whether she was going to be feeling more sick than we thought she was going to be, or whatever the case may have been. But she was at the start line of that race, so strong and so ready, and also so now vocal, right? Yeah. Of her battle with, yeah. Where she had originally said, right, go back to the beginning of the story, don't you dare put my face in a picture, or I don't want to be in a video. Women in my family had started telling her, they were like, do you know how powerful of a voice and powerful of like a presence you have in terms of how you looked at cancer and this battle that you were fighting? And she was like, was it Mel Gibson in Braveheart? Like, that was her at the beginning of the start line for the 100-mile race. It was so cool. So yeah, I and then the rest, I started running, and I ran 101 miles. And that 101 was, again, October 1st was the first day of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. October 1st was the day that she got diagnosed with cancer. So I ran 101 or 10-1 miles for her.
When was that? What day did you do that?
It was May 9th.
2020. I
started running on 2020. Are we in 2025? Yeah.
We're in 2025.
And I finished May 10th. So we started at 1 p.m. and I was done running at 11 a.m. It was 21 and a half hours.
And you started at Memorial Sloan, or ended?
No, started in Greenport.
Oh, that's right. And then you went to Memorial Sloan. Yeah, that's right.
And so it was raining really bad that day, and everyone talked about how we should push it back, and it's not a good idea to be running in the rain and cars and stuff like that. And part of me was like, I'm so excited to do this right now, but also maybe this is the best idea to push it back. But then I was like, wait a second. Here we're going back to this the run streak idea. Getting diagnosed with cancer, you don't get to choose
what day,
conditions, or what day that you want to do this because it might be better. You don't get to choose. oh, I don't care if I got pissed on by the rain and if I got struck by lightning, and that's it. That's how I would have went down. But I was going to run. That's it. That's it. As long as I wasn't putting other people in danger, I was running. And some other people said it wasn't raining. You know, I don't know if you're religious or anything like that, but it said that God was crying for how beautiful of a thing that we were doing. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
I feel that. I
Yeah.
feel that, man. No, I mean, I think that's really, really special. And man, I could talk to you for a while because every time we go into a part of your story, there are so many different ways that we can go. But one thing that really also like stood out for me in hearing you speak, uh, ultimately, when it comes to succeeding in any of these arenas, it's just a matter of outlasting everybody else, right? And that ability to outlast everybody else requires a lot of resilience, perseverance, and perspective. And that perspective of, you know, I know what I can control, I know what's not in my control. And despite things that are not in my control, I'm going to do my best to show up regardless. And I think that's that's the path to succeeding in those kind of endeavors. As we round things out here, Alex, um, now that you kind of look back at this body of work over the last couple of decades and your own personal evolution and your growth, and the learnings of your journey, talk to me a little bit about what you see as being your internal, I want to say secret sauce, but I don't like that phrase at all. But like your how you distinguish yourself, right? Going forward, right? Like, what is your North Star when it comes to a value or um, a mission that you're leaning into going forward?
So definitely, I love doing this. I love the feeling that it gives me. I love feeling like my goal is to do things that fewer people have. I want to be someone that maybe one day does something that nobody has ever done. So I'm just trying to stray away from the crowd as much as I possibly can. And obviously, I'm following footsteps of really, amazing, incredible people like ultra runners and, people that are doing these last man standing runs. But I'm trying to find something that like one entirely distinguishes me from the rest of the world, maybe, like trying to just become like as small of a percentage of people that has done something. But in terms of the guiding force, um, it's love. I think it's really just seeing people smile and seeing people happy and uh, just being a light. I don't know. I think uh, my mom has this ability to make anybody feel welcome and at home, and like exude like a warmth to them. And I think that people's actions can sort of do the same thing. And I just want to do actions, and I want to do things, and I want to do things from a place that makes people smile and makes people happy and maybe gives people hope. I was talking about hope the other day with somebody, and sometimes when we have nothing, the only thing that we can have is hope. And yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be, yeah, and I think I'm not trying to be, I'm being entirely transparent, but my fuel source is definitely a lot of darkness, right? There's a lot of, are you good enough? You're not good enough. Look how much you sucked in the past. You have to make up time. You're rejected. If you don't keep on doing this, you're just going to fall into the shadows, right? And that I like that. I if it's what works for me, if creating or if having darkness in me is what allows me to put out this positive message in the world, I'm all for it. Because at the end of the day, I'm smiling and I'm happy. And yeah, I just want to make people smile, and I want to be funny. I like I like laughing and I like
No,
making
man,
people laugh.
that's so perfectly said, and I can't tell you like how much I relate to you on the inside. I'm very similar. I was fueled and I continue to be fueled by a lot of darkness. A lot of the things that I do in a quest to do things that haven't been done before. And you know, slowly you start to do things that, like I said earlier, distinguish you from the pack, and then you start to build on that momentum and get further away from the norm, and you start to realize, and you know this, you start to realize what it is that you're truly capable of, and you make history for yourself. And the more history you make for yourself, the more other people are going to notice, and it doesn't really matter what they think, but it's what's going to define you ultimately. And so I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for coming on, for the authenticity, the transparency, the vulnerability. I could shoot the shit with you for a long time. So
Could be here for a while for sure.
yeah, man. So I appreciate you. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you so much, Bishoy. Have a good
Yeah.
one. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode of the Mile 40 podcast, go ahead, subscribe, leave a review, and share the word. Thank you for being a part of the Mile 40 family. And let's unite in showing the world that comebacks are always greater than setbacks.